Howdy, and welcome to Power World. This is Lamball. Found commonly throughout the low-level zones, today I would like to determine if its high abundance and low catch rate make it the best early game pal. Let's find out. Combat. Well, he really tries. Sporting a measly base 70 across the board for HP, attack, and defense, and no overworld alphas, Lamball will need a lot of work to make it a combat menace. But Lamball does have one thing going for it, an incredibly strong exclusive move. Roly-Poly, a 35 base power attack with only 1 second cooldown, the shortest in the game, is not to be trifled with. Compare that to Power Shot, it's 35 base power, and horrendous 4 second cooldown by comparison. Alright, let's see this in action. Well, that was anticlimactic. Power Shot, in contrast, has a very short cast time and Lamball can act immediately afterwards. While Roly-Poly is slow moving and Lamball can't attack until the whole animation is over, including the dreadfully long recoil animation. And other moves in its learn set aren't much better. Ironically, it learns Power Shot at level 15, a better stab move, making Roly-Poly obsolete very early. He also learns Implode at level 22 as the strongest stab attack, and Pal Blast at level 50, the strongest if you don't want your Lamball to faint. Any way you slice it, it's not going to be carrying you to any victories without skill fruits. Its partner skill is also awful. The Pal equips to you like a shield, but it's not instant. Lamball needs to run its stubby little legs towards you in order for it to activate. To make matters worse, there's not even some under the hood damage reduction or health regeneration, or attack penetration nullifier to compensate for any of the ability's drawbacks. Given this, you'd think there'd be some kind of offensive benefit since it doesn't have a defensive one. Lamball can't attack while being held. You cannot use melee weapons or bows, which is sad because those are the weapons you will use most in the early game until you get the crossbow at level 13. It's just all around better to have Lamball off-angling. I don't see any positive use for this ability. The one silver lining is that the cooldown on this ability is very short, but isn't worth using in any situation anyways, as I said before. The only thing Lamball has going for it is that he's easy to condense due to his overabundance, but even then, condensing doesn't benefit the shield at all in terms of cooldown, damage reduction, or any kind of other buff. If you insist on using Lamball, I would recommend adding super effective coverage attacks, because its normal typing is not doing it any favors either. So, Lamball isn't a competent combatant. Not all pals are. Surely he's a hard worker at your base, right?
Wrong.
Well, it does have the transporting and handiwork suitability, but so does Cattiva. On top of that, Cattiva also has the mining trait. Well, at least Lamball can be put to work on the ranch giving you wool. And while it doesn't make as much wool as Melpaca, it's found earlier and in higher quantities, so it's easier to get to tier 5. Oh, hold on. Melpaca's not the only other wool collector. Cremis can get wool too, and it drops the same amount as Melpaca? To put in comparison, Lamball at tier 5 drops an average of 3 wool every time it preens, between 1 and 5, while Cremis only needs tier 3 to drop an average of 3 wool and is common to find just past the beginning hill. The only thing Lamball has on Cremis is that it has a faster run speed to get to and from the food trough. Now, there is actually one thing that Lamball is good for. It is perfect as breeding stock. Since they're so common, finding one with good IVs and passives is only a matter of time and pal spheres. Here are some notable breeding pairs for Lamball. If you breed Lamball with Chicopee, you get Mao, a hard to find cat that only spawns in dungeons. If you breed Lamball with Liftmonk, you get Vixie, the best ranch pal in the game. Breed Celeray with Lamball to get Wixen, a strong fire type that changes your weapon damage to fire while still being able to off-angle, unlike Lamball. And breed Lamball with Melpaca to get Nox, a very rare night spawn that has the same passive as Wixen but for dark types. Given all of my arguments thus far, it should be apparent that Lamball is not a very good early game pal, and a terrible pal overall. It is outclassed by other pals that are just as prevalent as itself and in the same areas. The only niche it fills is as breeding stock and mass wool collection outside of the ranch. Thank you for watching this. Since I plan on making this an ongoing series, I would like to make a tier list of this. Here are my tiers. We have F tier, don't even bother. They don't have a niche and are outclassed by others in their zones. D, early game threats. Pals that serve a purpose in the early game but fall off later. C, mid-game menaces, a decent power spike over the early game pals, but aren't as powerful as pals you get in later zones. B, indispensable monsters, are pals that are good at one thing, but is so important or they do it so well that it's worth having a few around. A tier, late game titans. These guys are strong enough to beat late game bosses, but they have some flaw that slightly holds them back. S tier, post-game behemoths. These are the best at what they do and are a no-brainer inclusion on your team. And surprising no one, Lamball goes in the don't even bother tier. Bye!